Why Doctor Doom has been in the MCU secret big bad all along.
Doctor Doom is not only coming to the MCU, but I think that he may have been here all along. Welcome back, Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Airy, and we are going to revisit the
The
entire history
interesting
of the
theory.
MCU to explain how Doctor Doom might have been pulling the strings during some of the Infinity Saga's most crucial moments. That's right, we combed through the official Marvel Cinematic Timeline and found key points where Doom was pulling the strings in some of the biggest moments of the Infinity Saga. And also, I have a theory that Doom may have inadvertently created Kang and started the mess that is the Multiverse Saga. And guys, before we really get rolling here, I want to thank all of you for supporting our channel and shopping at our merch store, ScreenCrushMerch.com, where we design the merch ourselves. Right now,
Low
we have this
key.
brand new Return of the King shirt, the Nelson and Murdoch shirts, and many more. You can also come see us live at our live show in Brooklyn, New York
Alright,
on
buddy.
February 22nd,
Come on.
George Washington's birthday. The link for the tickets and everything else is below. Now, before I can explain how Doom will fit into the MCU, first we have to explain a little backstory from the comics. Then, as we'll go along, we'll see how we can retrofit his classic origin into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, Doctor Doom grew up as a poor Romani traveler, what used to be known as a gypsy in a country called Latveria. His people were harassed and killed by the soldiers of a local baron. So Doom's mother, Cynthia, made a deal with a demon for supernatural powers that she used to attack the baron's soldiers. But then she was killed by a witch-hunting mob. Doom swore vengeance, and later in life, when he discovered his mother had sold her soul to the devil, he swore to retrieve her soul from hell. Now this will be the driving motivation for most of Doom's life: revenge on the baron and saving his mom's soul.
Revenge on the mother.
He is just a knowledge sponge, learning about magic and technology. And soon he is recruited to attend Empire State University, where he is classmates with Reed Richards, the future Mr. Fantastic. Now Doom is at the university to use their resources to build a device that he thinks will help him to enter hell and save his mom. But Richards points out that his calculations are off. The machine backfires, scars Doom's face, and for the rest of his life he will blame Reed Richards for tampering with the machine. So Doom returns to Latveria, and he lives with these monks who believe that he will become their leader. They help him forge armor, and then he takes on the persona of Doctor Doom. Using both magic and science, he overthrows the Baron and becomes the ruler of Latveria and also the greatest supervillain of all time. But what makes Doom truly great is
And
that he really believes
causes
that he is the
doom
only
to
person who
everyone.
can fix the world. With himself as the leader of the planet, he believes that there will be a new golden age of peace and prosperity. So if you want to read a great comic book about this, I highly recommend The Books of Doom by Ed Brubaker, Pablo Raimondi, and Mark Farmer. It is a great read that shows how Doom is a nuanced villain and a perfect fit for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Let's now talk about how Doctor Doom has been in the Marvel Cinematic Universe all along.
What?
So,
Just a second, person.
Let's see about
Why,
it.
certainly. I would love to provide you with my social security number in exchange for entry into...
robocall buddy, hang up the phone.
But they seem so nice.
I take mail from online dating. Now, the internet is filled with shady people. I know these people. Incognito, they don't data brokers that were street. 2.7. They sell it. If you sign up for it, then have to remove companies and quest has been completed. My old nemesis, unknown number. So I highly recommend giving Incogni a try. Use my code ScreenCrush with the link below to get 60% off an Incogni plan. MCU, I gotta lay out a couple ground rules first. Now at first I thought that I would go back through the history of the MCU in that timeline book and come up with theories about how Doom is actually behind everything, including Ultron and Civil War. But that would actually undermine the story that we've already been told. Also, if Doom had already been a supervillain for the past 20 years, we would have heard of him by now. So what we're going to talk about is how the Infinity
Easter
Saga is
eggs or
actually
something.
the origin story for Doctor Doom. We're going to start him at 0 and bring him all the way up to 11. Now the other question we have to answer is, how old is Doctor Doom? Well, I figured we would make him no older than Tony Stark, born sometime in the early 1970s. This would make him about the same age as Pedro Pascal, who is rumored to be playing Reed Richards. It also means that now Doom can be played by Cillian Murphy, a fan cast that we like so much that we're going to use B-roll of Cillian Murphy as a stand-in for Doctor Doom throughout this video. Now, to kick things off, Doom is going to have a very close relationship to Sokovia, the war-torn home country of Wanda Maximoff that was destroyed in Age of Ultron, because Latveria borders Sokovia. At one point, I thought that Doom should maybe be Sokovia
Right
instead
next
of
door.
Latveria, but trust me, this works way better. So Latveria borders Sokovia, and maybe at one point they were once part of the same block of nations during the Cold War. So this will give us some fun ways to connect Doom to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. For instance, we know that Zemo is Sokovian and that he is a Baron, Baron Zemo. But in the comics, his father, Heinrich Zemo, was actually the first villain Baron Zemo fought in World War II. So let's do something similar here. later. MCU Zemo's father is the Baron that hunted down and tormented Doom's family as a child. Although if we did want Doom to be Sokovian, then maybe the Baron's castle was the castle from Age of Ultron, but trust me, we're not going to go that way. It's going to be a lot more fun this way. So all of that origin stuff with Dr. Doom's mom and the Baron's men, that would have happened in the 1970s or 80s during Doom's childhood. And so then, in the late 1990s, this young refugee starts making high-tech weaponry that catches the attention of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, at the time, S.H.I.E.L.D. would have been running Project Pegasus, doing tests with the Tesseract.
It would have been somewhere
so
inside of
S.H.I.E.L.D.
S.H.I.E.L.D.
Doom and young Reed Richards to help them study this object. Now, a couple years ago, I posted a video about my pitch for the Fantastic Four, where Reed was a scientist who was studying the Tesseract, and he stole his Tesseract-powered ship after realizing that S.H.I.E.L.D. wanted to make weapons with the cube. It's a pretty good video that we'll actually probably remake and post again soon. So, in the MCU, instead of Reed and Doom meeting in college, they meet at S.H.I.E.L.D. Victor has no formal schooling, but he is just an information sponge. But he resents Reed and the fact that Reed comes from money. He thinks that if he had a fraction of Reed's resources, then he would have done something great for the world, like overthrow the Baron and save his mom's soul from hell. Now remember, at the time,
None of that would even
the
happen.
Tesseract opened gateways. Hawkeye actually pointed that out to Fury at the start of the Avengers.
Yeah, the cube is a doorway to the other end of space, right? Doors open from both sides.
But Victor would have figured this out very early on. But he would not tell S.H.I.E.L.D. this information because Victor wanted to use the Tesseract's ability to open wormholes to teleport himself to the realm where his mother was trapped. Now, at this point, Victor has been studying his mother's magic books, but he doesn't yet know enough about these other worlds. He just needs more knowledge, more technology, more time. Remember that for later. So, in secret, Doom builds his own machine to use the Tesseract to travel to another dimension. Reed finds out about this, tries to stop him, and this creates the accident that scars Doom's face. Now, Doom is extremely proud, so from this point on, he will keep his face covered in various ways. He is kicked out of S.H.I.E.L.D. and then he travels the world looking for answers. Now, when Doom was studying the Tesseract, he also studied its history and how the Red Skull obtained it from a Norse tomb and how Johann Schmidt believed it was from the gods. Doom would reason that a celestial object like this would have come from aliens, not gods, and he wonders if there are more artifacts like this. So, he builds a device to
Gonna go
study
after the
gamma
Infinity
radiation of the
Stones.
Tesseract and discovers that yes, there is another one of these objects on Earth in a place called Karmartage. His journey to Karmartage leads him to the Ancient One, so Doom demands that she teach him her ways. Now remember, at this point, the Ancient One still has the Time Stone, which she can use to look into the future and see possible outcomes. So, she does this for Doom, just like she did for Steven.
Strange is meant to be the best.
At this point, Doom isn't really a villain. He's filled with anger and resentment, but so is Stephen Strange. Doom just wants to save his mom and keep his people safe. So the Ancient One sees that Doom could be a great force for good and agrees to train him, which would mean that Doom would have been training alongside Caecilius, another MCU villain who was learning magic to regain a lost loved one. So Doom and Caecilius would have struck up an antagonistic friendship similar to the relationship between Doom and Reed. Both of them have an interest in reaching other realms. Caecilius wants to live at Dormammu in a realm without time, and Doom wants to go to hell, which, by the way, I've always thought the hand dimension in Doctor Strange might have actually been hell, because it was unleashing Stephen's worst nightmare on him again and again and again. Now, Doom would have been an amazing student, a fast learner, on track to become Sorcerer Supreme one day, because in the comics, he actually is second in line for Sorcerer Supreme. Several important events in the MCU would have happened while Doom was studying at Karmartage. Tony Stark reveals that he likes to put on armor and fight terrorists. Armor, Doom thinks. How childish. And the Battle of New York would have also been a particular interest to Doom, because a god, Thor, had come to Earth, and because an alien army succeeded where Doom failed. They used the Tesseract to open up a portal. But Doom would have looked at the Avengers and thought they were silly buffoons, wearing costumes and serving that witless oaf Nick Fury. Doom had more important matters to tend to, like learning the mystic arts. So Doom and Caecilius would have discovered together that the
too
Ancient
easy
One was
for him.
channeling energy from the dark dimension to stay alive. Doom confronts the Ancient One about this, demanding that she share this power. The Ancient One now sees that his future has changed. If Doom is allowed to stay at Karmartage, he will kill her and take the Time Stone. So she banishes him. A couple years later, Caecilius actually acts on this information and leaves the Ancient One in early 2016, which we saw in Doctor Strange. So Doom is aimless. Two different institutions, Karmartage and S.H.I.E.L.D., have kicked him out and prevented him from helping his mother. But then a seminal event happens. S.H.I.E.L.D. falls. Hydra was behind S.H.I.E.L.D. all along. To Doom, this makes perfect sense. How else could S.H.I.E.L.D. have been so inept? They were handicapped from within. So now Doom sees a way forward with Hydra. Remember, at the end of Winter Soldier, the Black Widow leaked all of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s
interesting.
files. They were encrypted, but for Doom, decrypting them was very simple. So now Doom has full access to all of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s secrets. Now, a couple caveats. I don't think that this means Doom knew about Fury's Skrull agents. I believe that Fury kept them off the books like Hawkeye's farm. And 2, this means that Doom now knows about Wakanda.
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, in Season 2, Episode 2 of What If, T'Chaka is recruited to help stop Ego from taking over Earth, and Howard Stark confirms that S.H.I.E.L.D. knew that Wakanda was a hidden superpower.
Your father was a great ally to us during the war.
Which also explains why it was on Fury's map in Iron Man 2. So now Doom, armed with Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. secrets, returns to his home country or home region, Latveria/Sokovia.
He would have
Powerful
invaded.
Hydra cell is doing great work in Sokovia with another artifact that emits those cosmic gamma signatures that Doom loves so much, but this time it's the Mind Stone. So Doom approaches Baron von Strucker, hat in hand, asking for work. He says that S.H.I.E.L.D. was weak, but you Strucker, are strong. So Strucker puts Doom to work on robotics. All those robots that Ultron activated in Age of Ultron, but before he can, the Avengers attack the Citadel. So Doom loses all of his work, his research, his home, and then he has to watch in horror as that bumbling idiot Tony Stark's creation destroyed the entire country. Now, this is the seminal moment in Doom's life. It's when he sees that the people controlling the world, these so-called heroes, are morons. Doom realizes that up until now, he has been selfish, concerned only for his own family. But now, he expands his vision. He realizes that he must control the world in order to save it from this chaos. And in doing so, he will finally have the tools to save his mother's soul from hell. Now, Doom, like all Sokovians, is now a refugee again. He tries to assemble some kind of coalition of people to become their leader.
Okay, so when does he get his armor and mask?
Oh yeah, so look, I should note that after his accident, Doom has kept his face hidden in some way. At Carmartage, he wore bandages. At Hydra, he made like a rudimentary mask for himself. And now, he wears a combination of both. A mask,
Nobody
alongside
questioned
the green
it.
robes and hood of his people. Now, in the mountains surrounding Sokovia, the mountains of Latveria as well, he led these refugees to a temple of people who worship him as their prophesized leader. Meanwhile, he leads this band of refugees into the wreckage of their nation to retrieve valuable resources. These robot machines that Doom had built and the vibranium embedded into the earth. So using these salvage machines, Doom can finally wage war on the governments that have hounded his family for his entire life. And so, circa 2016 or 2017, Doom finally becomes the liberator and monarch of Latveria. And this is where he takes inspiration from that idiot Tony Stark. He will build his own suit of armor and become a new kind of Iron Man. He will build his own suit of armor around the world, but this time, he will succeed.
Hey, what about Baron Zemo? He's Sokovian. Did he, tell Doom what to do or something?
Okay, no. I want to quickly note something here about Baron Helmut Zemo. We have said in the past that it would have made sense if he had a collaborator in Captain America Civil War. And the channel Nando V Movies has a great video about how that collaborator should have been Sharon Carter. But I don't think that Dr. Doom would have worked with Zemo or even been his silent partner. Because after all, Zemo is the son of the Baron that kicked his family off their land. But I do think that he would have met Zemo.
Who would have
in
thought he was a
Avengers
super
camp,
soldier?
and that he would have given Zemo the means to decipher Hydra's secrets.
Millions of pages, much of it encrypted, but I have experience and patience.
I mean, think about it. They're both refugees. They're both in the mountains. They could have met, exchanged resentments about the heroes, and then Doom could have told him what he discovered about the Winter Soldier. It is a neat way to tie Doom into the destruction of the Avengers. And on the same note, there is a way we could also possibly tie Dr. Doom into Thor Ragnarok. Now, there's a weird part of Ragnarok where they don't really explain why Odin stayed on Earth.
Why, whatever do you mean?
Well, think about it. Odin breaks Loki's spell, but he doesn't go back to Asgard. Now, in the original cut of Ragnarok, Loki was a homeless man, and they changed that in reshoots because it made his death too depressing. So originally, he probably did not remember who he was right up until his death. But in Ragnarok, he's in Norway at peace, living out the rest of his life. Now, this could be because he hadn't had the Odin sleep for so long, and he knew that he was going to die no matter what. Now, Colton Ogburn, the guy who's trapped eternally in our television but doesn't know it, so please don't tell him, Colton thinks that Odin realized that his son Loki would never stop lusting for the throne, so he decided to just let him have it. But there is a way that Doom could have been involved here. Remember, Doom had a passing interest in these Norse gods from when he studied the Tesseract, but now that his goal is to take over the world, he would want to rid the Earth of any of these aliens who could challenge his authority. So, he wants to build a
Take
Thor
everyone
tracking
out.
device. Now, we saw Doctor Strange use a strand of Thor's hair to create a spell that would help him track Odin.
I need just one strand of your hair. Let me explain something. My hair is not to be meddled with.
Doom could then use this same spell, tracking down Thor's hair from, I don't know, like any of these battle sites. But instead of leading him to Thor, it leads him to Odin in a nursing home. Now, Doom maybe wouldn't even know who this Asgardian was, but he sees a chance to capture and study one of these aliens. But when he uses his magic on Odin, he breaks Loki's spell, and then Doom and Odin have a fight that destroys the nursing home. Odin wins.
That would've been a
apparently,
crazy
but his
fight.
injuries are so grave and his magic is so spent that he knows that he won't live long, and he returns to Norway. Now, to be honest, that's all fun, but a little bit too convoluted and silly. But here is an MCU connection that makes total sense. In Spider-Man Homecoming, the Vulture wants to rob Stark Tower and sell Stark's gear to a major client. 100% that client should be Dr. Doom. He would want Stark's arc reactor as a potential power source for Latveria and his own armor. And around this time, Doom takes another action that will affect geopolitical power. Remember, he knows all about Wakanda. He knew about Wakanda before T'Challa revealed himself to the world, because he has decrypted S.H.I.E.L.D.'s files. So Doom, in addition to being a sorcerer and scientist, is also a world leader. So he is very, very good at geopolitics. He would see Wakanda as a threat to him, and he would want their technology and vibranium for himself. So it would be in his best interest to destabilize the nation of Wakanda any way he could.
No, you mean...
Yes. I think the mysterious illness that killed T'Challa, the disease that no scientist in the most advanced scientific nation on Earth could combat, that disease was actually a spell created by Victor Von Doom. And the reason that only the heart-shaped herb could heal him is because the herb has magical properties. So Doom would have
they won't do
infected him
that
with
though.
the spell before the snap, but the spell took years to take full effect. Now, with the snap in 2018, there are two ways forward. One is that Doom was snapped and his rise to power is delayed, but that is the boring option. So let's go with option 2. The snap happens and Doom uses this as an opportunity to rise to power. In fact, maybe he doesn't use his robot army to defeat the Baron and take over Latveria until after the snap. After all, half the Baron's forces would have been gone, leaving the country open for invasion. And there would also be so much chaos happening post-snap that nobody would pay attention to an obscure Eastern European nation being taken over in a coup. In Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we heard it mentioned that Sokovia was divided up by neighboring countries.
Cannibalized by its neighbor. Even cleared up rubble.
So one of these countries was Latveria, and soon all of these countries will become part of Latveria, bowing to their political and technological strength and influence.
They got a
Wouldn't the
whole
governments of the world do something to stop such a madman from extending his
continent
grasp of power? Did we
at
learn
that point.
nothing from Neville Chamberlain at Munich?
Well, Doug, remember, this is after the snap. Everybody is trying to keep their own house in order. So poor Eastern European nations would actually welcome the power and stability that Doom would offer them. So by absorbing these countries, Doom also absorbs what's left of Sokovia,
It would have been
precious
king.
vibranium that is beneath the earth. Now, look, like I said earlier, you could retcon it and make Doom Sokovian, but he doesn't have to be. But I do think that Sokovia should always be a key point in Doom's life. After Doom overthrew the Baron, he made his home in the Baron's castle, or he rebuilds the one from Age of Ultron. Like whichever option you like the best, that's what it is, but Doom ends up in a castle. So this is where the Dr. Doom that we know and love begins to take shape. Doom begins to send spies out across the world to infiltrate other governments. He even sends spies to Wakanda, because some of these spies are Doom bots, sophisticated life model decoys that can pass as human beings. Now, in Wakanda Forever, we saw the Wakanda standing in the world has slowly been eroded with fear and paranoia. That could have been stoked by Doom's own agents. By the end of that movie, the president wants regime change in Wakanda, and I can see Doom's fingerprints all over this. Maybe Latveria was part of a coalition of governments pushing for regime change. Or maybe it was simply Doom's agents in the government that were pushing for Wakanda regime change, like Richard Schiff's Secretary of State.
The president wants to take offensive action against Wakanda. Destabilization.
Make that guy a Latvian Doombot spy.
That'd be cool.
Right? And Doom would also hate that there would be an entire nation of superpowered aliens on Earth. But there's not much he could do about it right now. However, we did see this
Would have destroyed them.
in No Way Home that mentioned political turmoil in New Asgard. So maybe Doom was trying to stir things up as Valkyrie was in a state of transition, trying to take control of the government. Now look, I did go through the MCU looking for a few people who could have possibly been Doom's double agents. I would have liked to have said Hayward from WandaVision, but he's just too much of a dumbass. Also, if one of Doom's men would have had custody of Vision's body, he would have had it returned to Latveria so he could study it. But Doom would have definitely had interest in Wanda Maximoff. For one thing, they're from the same region. For another, she's the most powerful magic user on Earth.
That's his
Doom
wife.
followed the events of WandaVision very closely, especially the part where there was another sorceress with a powerful book of spells. Remember, Doom studied at Karmartaj. He would have browsed that forbidden section where the Darkhold used to be kept right here. He would note that this evil book, the Darkhold, was key to entering hell and finding his mother. So Doom would want to exploit Wanda's fragile state of mind and her desire to be reunited with her family. Remember at the end of WandaVision when she's using the Darkhold and hears voices?
Yeah, and then they never followed up on it.
Right, so why would she hear her boys cry out for help when they're just eating ice cream with their mom in the 838? Because Doom was combing the astral plane, looking for Wanda, and he sent these spells to her spirit to nudge her in a direction of his choosing. Those voices were Dr.
He wanted to
Doom.
Why would
corrupt
they
her.
do that?
Oh, he wanted to control and harness Wanda's power for himself. He wanted the Darkhold. And this is exactly what happens in the comics. The Young Avengers at this point go on a quest to find Wanda, and they discover her with amnesia and engaged to Dr. Doom. So, you want to know where I think Wanda went after she died in Multiverse of Madness? She is in Latveria with Dr. Doom. But what Doom really wanted here was to enter Wanda's mind and to make her think that her kids were trapped in hell. And then he could use the power of the Scarlet Witch to free his own mother. But Doom, he didn't count on the multiverse. Wanda dreamwalking took him totally by surprise. Now look, don't worry. Unlike Marvel, I have not forgotten about the giant celestial that emerged from the ocean. Doom would have been studying the earthquakes that were happening in the Eternals. He would have determined that they were unnatural, and he would have traced the site of the emergence. I think that while the Celestials were fighting each other and having their own personal moments or whatever, Doom would have also been present in the background, testing the celestial power and plotting how to take that power for himself. But this plan was thwarted when those silly heroes turned the Celestial into snow.
What a waste.
Now, around this time is when something key happens. Doom learns about the Skrulls. Maybe this is before Secret Invasion, maybe it's after, doesn't matter. Point is, he captures a Skrull, tortures it, and then when he does, he learns about the Cosmos. All those secrets that Nick Fury kept off the books. The Kree, the Skrulls, the true nature of the Infinity Stones. And one of those secrets is time travel.
Skrulls can time travel?
Not that we know of. However, we do know that people in space know about temporal mechanics. And of course, Doom would immediately connect the multiverse to time travel and see a path forward. This is how he could finally gather the knowledge to save his mother, enter other universes, and accumulate their power and knowledge, just like the Avengers did to undo the snap. Now this is where it gets really interesting. There are rumors swirling around.
He'll go after all
Doom to replace Kang as the big bad of the multiverse saga, like how Doom is the central villain of the
Yeah, he
in
might
the comics.
destroy
Now
all the
explain why this
kings,
isn't the worst idea ever, how it could
which
actually
would be
happen, and why there's
badass.
precedent for this in the comics. In the comics, Kang is from the distant future, and he begins time traveling after he discovers Dr. Doom's ancient time machine, the same time platform that we saw Kang's using in the Quantumania post-credits scene, and that Reed Richards used in the Multiverse of Madness. So Dr. Doom actually invents time travel and inadvertently the multiverse. But he had help with the notebook of a 19th century scientist named Victor Timely. So hold on, this might get confusing. In season 2 of Loki, we met a variant of Kang called Victor Timely, a poor candle maker who acquired a TVA handbook and then used those designs to become an inventor. Now they keep telling us that this man was before his time.
We had to realize it would have been
Now, in the show Loki, He Who Remains sent this manual back to Victor Timely to bring him to the TVA because his original plan was for Loki to take his place.
Why would you give up being in control?
Buddy. I'm tired.
But in the original structure of the Sacred Timeline, that was not Victor Timely's original role. He Who Remains changed Victor Timely's role in order to get Loki to take over his throne. Originally, Victor Timely's designs were actually used to create the TVA thousands and thousands of years in the TVA's past.
I learned everything I know from a brilliant 19th century inventor named Victor Timely.
So He Who Remains changed Victor's path in order to have Loki take his place at the center of time, which means that Victor Timely did go on to have these ideas and maybe even write them down. And those ideas helped OB design the TVA's machines. So what if Dr. Doom discovered Timely's notebooks as well and then used them to
Could
create
they destroy the
platform?
TVA
It's another
too?
fun Ouroboros loop.
Well, that's silly because if Dr. Doom could time travel, then he would just rule the multiverse like Kang.
Wrong. Because Doom is smarter than Kang. He would immediately see the consequences of traveling through time. Every time he time travels, he splits off the universe. He creates another Doom, and there can only ever be one Dr. Doom. So Doom doesn't really use his time machine, but the key thing here is that he is aware of the multiverse. He would monitor its unchecked expansion and the damage the Kangs are doing. And most importantly, he would be ready to step in and fix their mistakes. So when Secret Wars does happen, and when the multiverse is collapsing, Doom can step in to create a patchwork universe called Battle World, and that is why he will be at the center of the Avengers Secret Wars. Well guys, that was a lot of fun to write and tell you about. Let me know your thoughts on this below. Do you think that Doom could have been in the MCU all along? How would you
That's it. Subscribe.